Hi, welcome back to my channel where we talk about everything related to food and wine. My name is Vivian and I am a food and wine professional. So today I wanted to discuss with you food and wine pairings. I think a lot of people get really afraid of what to pair their wines with. They're like, oh, I'm gonna make the wrong decision, all this stuff. And I get a lot of texts from my friends being like, what should I pick? What should I pick for like weddings and all this kind of stuff. So I want to go over basic principles that they teach us in the sommelier class. So, well, first off, we need to drink because, it's been a long day. Anyway, let's drink. Today I'm drinking a Chilean Cabernet Sauvignon, 2016, I believe. So the first wine and food pairing principle is what grows together goes together. Kind of rhymes. This mostly goes for old world wines, so Spain, Italy, France. And the wines there have evolved with the cuisine around it. So for instance, in Spain, there's the northern western coast, there's a wine called Albarino, and it's really acidic and bright and light, and it goes really well with seafood. So the wines there happen to pair well with the local seafood there. In doubt, when you're like, what should I pair with this Italian wine? It's like, why not a risotto? Something in the Italian family. And I said this applied to Old World, but you can apply it to New World as well. So Argentina is very well known for Malbec, and they have a lot of beef there. So steak and Malbec, great pairing. The second principle is match intensities. In general, you want to match stronger wines with stronger foods and lighter wines with lighter foods. So this is why people in general like to say red wines go with red meat and white wines go with like white meat, like chicken and fish. But it's not always the case. Like some Pinots are really light and you can eat them with salmon. That's like a very common pairing and it goes so well together. Or you can, like there's no, like Beaujolais is a red wine and you can have it with chicken, So like that's not a hard, steadfast rule of like red meat, white meat. But that does go back to the principle about matching intensities. So Pinot's a light wine, so it can go with chicken. But it's not just the type of like protein, it's also the sauces. Like, is it a heavy sauce? Is it a creamy sauce? If it's like a chicken thigh meat with a creamy sauce, yeah, you could probably pair it with a medium body, light body red, and it'll probably be amazing. So match intensities, and that goes not just for the protein, but for the sauces around it. Swirl, baby, swirl. So we talked about what grows, why can't I say this? What goes together grows together. What grows together goes together. That's it. So we talked about what grows together goes together, matching intensities, and the last one is taste interactions. And there's multiple in this, but just knowing these basic interactions with taste will help you pair your wines. So the first interaction we're going to talk about is sweet likes sweet. So if you have a sweet wine, pair it with something sweet. That'd be Rieslings, dessert wines like port, Madeira, some Moscatos. You can pair that with something sweet. But again, matching intensities. like an ice wine or a Sauternes, which is a very nice dessert wine. It sounds really gross. We'll talk about this in another video about dessert wines. Sauternes is like this fungus infects a grape and then basically dehydrates the grape, so then it's like super sweet, and then they make that syrupy stuff into a wine, and it's like super sweet, super strong, and actually really delicious. And it's one of like in the wine world, is one of like the most sought after dessert wines. So that can go really well with like something like a cream cheese dessert base, something like caramelly, or heck, like ice creams. But like for the lighter sweet ones like Moscato, Riesling, you don't even have to do it in dessert land. You can think about like sweeter foods, savory foods, like barbecue. Sometimes barbecue can be kind of sweet, so that would go really well together. A lot of Asian foods, we cook with not a lot. We cook with sugar, and sometimes we play with the salty sweet. That's another thing, salt and sweet, right? We already know this. We do this on the regular, which is why chocolate has, like, they have sea salt chocolate, or like people do this. Comment down below if you do this, like the fries and the milkshakes. I'm not really a huge fan of that, but I get the concept, you know, salty sweet. Ugh, talking too much, need a drink break. All right, since we're on salt likes acid, and this makes sense. Well, what salt does actually, it lowers your perception of acid. So if it tastes really acidic, salt will lower it, which is why a lot of times, like think about like with fries, like ketchup is kind of acidic and sweet, and this is why we like it with fries. Or you spray some lemon juice on like a salty fried fish, right? So it's kind of like doing something similar what we would do with lemon juice. Or like think about like the margarita too, like that you put like a salt rim with the lime juice, goes really well. So you'd want to do something similar to wine. So you pick an acidic wine with like a salty food. So like I said, like a Albarino, or like a nice cold climate, because cold climate usually means it's more acidic. Cold climate Sauvignon Blanc would really go well with, yeah, like fries, I bet. Or classic, like a really dry champagne or sparkling wine, like Cava, with potato chips, like really acidic with that salty crunchiness. Ooh, so good. So the next one, and most of you guys have heard this, is tannins, and how a tannic wine will go well with a fatty food. So tannins loves fat. What does that mean? Like, that's not like people say that all the time, but you're like, okay, great. How do I apply that? So tannins, they come from the skin and the seeds of the grapes. So while they're all being mushed together, some of the tannins from those leaches out into the wine, which is good. It's a good thing because it provides structure, and like I'm about to say, it helps the wine go with food. So that tannins is what is like that drying sensation of the mouth when you're like, and it's kind of dry. That's the tannins working. It kind of happens in the middle of the tongue. Tannins work well with fat, because fat, when you have a lot of fat, it basically does the opposite of drying out your mouth, right? So you'll have like a tannic wine. So Cabernet Sauvignon is a perfect example, or Barolos or Barbarescos, Italian Barolos and Barbarescos, and then like from the Nebbiolo grape, those have a lot of tannins, and you'd want to eat those with like a fatty meat or, you know, something buttery, creamy, because it'll cut through the fat. Tannins help you cut through the fat, and so basically it's like a palate cleanser. Tannins like that. And then the last principle of taste interactions. So we've gone through sweet like sweet, sweet like salty, salty like acidic, tannins like fat, and the last one is alcohol. High alcohol will increase the perception of spice. So you really don't want an alcoholic wine when you're eating something really spicy, which, like, I think that's why there aren't as many pairings with, or like the pairings that people put with like Asian food, or like, are they need to step up their game. So spicy Asian food or spicy Indian food, you don't want to be drinking a Cabernet Sauvignon with that, or like a really alcoholic one. You probably want something a little less alcoholic, but like the interesting thing though is like a lot of Asian foods have a lot of flavor, right? And like I said before, principle 2, match intensities with intensities. We have to find food, like some wines that are intense, not that alcoholic. So those kind of tend to be like more acidic or more sweet. So those tend to go better with spicy foods. I always think it's trial and error. Like, don't be so hard on yourself. You can just slowly work your way. I think it is kind of like, it is a little bit more difficult in a restaurant when you're not familiar with the dish. Sometimes you're not familiar with the wines, which is why, like, hopefully the staff has tried everything and they can help you and maybe have some recommendations. But if you're home and you're making the menu, you can go either way. You could be like, I want to drink this, what can I eat with it? Or I want to eat this, what can I drink with it, right? So using the principles that I went over, you can, create really amazing food moments and experiment. Don't be afraid, okay? Like, honestly, it happens. Sometimes you're like, this could be better. It's okay. It's food. It's like, worst case scenario, you just like drink or eat it separately and you're like, okay, this is not the wine, or this is not for the food for this. But anyway, have fun. That's what like food pairing, wine pairing is all about, is like just trying things and be like, does this go together? And like sometimes you can surprise yourself and be like, wow, I did not know. And the whole purpose of food and wine pairing is that you are elevating the wine and the food to, like, the sum of the parts is greater than the individual parts. Not to get like all philosophical and everything, but that's like the point. It's like, I could drink this wine and it's good, but it would be bomb with like a really nice cheese, like a brie, or like a nice Chile lamb. So I hope that was super helpful, and happy food and wine pairing.